Hello, it's Ryan with Selling University. Today I want to talk about non-negotiables. Every salesperson should have a non-negotiable in the terms and conditions of the contract that they're trying to sell. What do I mean by non-negotiables? For example, it might be the payment terms of your deal. Do you have a deposit? Do you have a progress pay? When's your final payment due? Is it upon completion of the project, or is it a net 30, meaning 30 days after completion? Is it something to do with how the signing process is conducted? Like you need, before anything can move forward, everything has to be signed. Certain non-negotiables. Why do you need these non-negotiables? It's to establish that the deal is on your terms. It's a mutually beneficial deal between you and your client, but it's on a it's being done on a field that's set by your rules. It's your home field advantage. Let me give you an example. I do roofing. I have roofing contracts when I have a new client. One of my non-negotiables is my deposit. I take 10% upon signing. The reason why this is non-negotiable, now I'll negotiate price, I'll negotiate all other terms and conditions of my contract. I won't negotiate waiving the deposit. What the deposit signifies to me is a customer that's going to fight me on payment at the beginning is absolutely going to fight me on payment and completion at the end. So this kind of helps me weed out customers that are going to be very difficult at the end or very difficult throughout the process. This is a mutually beneficial, it should be a mutually beneficial deal. So if you're going to fight me on payments, then you're going to be difficult for me to deal with. And I'd like to spend my emotional energy with someone else versus someone that wants to fight me tooth and nail to pay me. Now, I don't know think about the projects you sell, the deals that you sell. What should be your non-negotiable? Maybe it's appointment times. Maybe your non-negotiable is certain appointments that are needed for the deal can't be rescheduled or need to be met, or a client that's constantly late or constantly rescheduling and wasting your time. Maybe it's a non-negotiable might be an appointment cancellation fee if you have, say, a salon. These are certain things that kind of there needs to be something that makes the playing field even for yourself so that you're not just a servant to your client. You're working with your client. Now, does this mean your non-negotiable should be take it or leave it type of mindset? Like, I no, it should not be that way. I see a lot of salespeople that brag about firing their clients. Hey, I fired a client because they were not cooperating with the terms and conditions of the deal. These might be great things to boast about. Maybe it lets you're letting other salespeople know that you're the boss, that you're in control. Great. You just lost money. Why is that a good thing? Look, we're in sales. Sales is persuasion. I'm not saying that you should budge on your non-negotiables. You absolutely should not budge on your non-negotiable. But you need to help your client understand why that non-negotiable is there in the first place. For example, you've got a cancellation fee on your appointment. Your client's, hey, things might come up. I don't want to have to pay a cancellation fee. You might help that client. A weaker salesperson might be like, great, I don't need your business. I don't want to deal with it. Goodbye. I fired it. Now you can go on Reddit and tell how you fired a client. I fired a client and I saved myself a headache. You might have saved yourself a headache, but you lost money. What you need to do is you need to persuade your client that wants to work with you. They want to work with you. Why that non-negotiable there is there in the first place. Look, I have a cancellation fee because The time, I have a very tight schedule and I have a lot of clients that want to work with me. I have that in place to to ensure that my time is used valuable every day, that everyone gets an equal fair amount of time from me. Look, if it's unfair for me to book something with you and bump someone else off the calendar, and then that slot ends up not being used anyways. I could have serviced another client. It's not about me making more money. It's about me ensuring that everyone that wants to work with me gets their fair share. My other clients feel like they like the fact that their time is protected. Wouldn't you like to know that your time is protected? Hey, if I you're not going to get I'm locking that time in, you're not going to lose that opportunity to talk with me. It's going to happen. Look, it's for your protection of your time just as much as the protection of my time. That would be a way that you might help sell the reason for your non-negotiable. Another one might be your terms of payment. You have 4 progress pays for this project. Your client thinks that, hey, you don't need any money up front. I've been burned in the past. I don't want to pay you before the job is done, so I know that I got what I paid for. Hey, I'm good for it. I have the money. There's not an issue of me paying you at the end. I just want to make sure I'm protected. A good approach to this, because you could say, oh, that's not my non-negotiable. We can't work together. I'm going to fire you as a client. I showed you who's boss, and then they just go down the road to work for someone else. You might have successfully fired a client, successfully saved yourself a headache, but you lost money. How can you persuade your client? You might say, hey, the reason the progress payments are there, it's so that we're able to keep this project moving and meet your deadline. If I'm waiting for you to make payments on certain aspects of this project, it's going to take me longer to execute. If I'm waiting around for a Friday to get a payment when I could have gotten it paid 2 weeks earlier, I'm hesitant to put all this money out for all these certain vendors and certain materials for the project just to wait on you to reimburse me. I'd rather be able to execute at my timeline and get this thing done so that it's done over with and you're able to use the project. Use benefit from the project being completed. Or, hey, you're trusting me to manage your money to execute an efficient project that meets your standards. Look, how can we get into business together if there's not a mutual trust, or if you're not willing to meet my payment schedule? Why are we working together in the first place? I want to work with you. I want to do this project. However, I need your trust that this is going to be performed to the standards that the reason you said yes and signed, you believe I can deliver. I understand you've been burned in the past. I've been burned in the past, but it doesn't make me cynical for the future. Come on, let's start off this partnership right. Let's get the deposit in paid so I can start executing the promised scope of work. These are a couple examples of how you can persuade the client to come to work on your terms. Look, I've had very difficult clients in my career. However, all those difficult clients met my non-negotiables in my terms and conditions of my contracts. So I knew that even though they might be more difficult than some other clients, at the end of the day, every client is different. Every client has different expectations. Some are a little easier to work with than others. Yes. Would we rather all our clients pay their bill, never say a peep, and they're happy with whatever you deliver? Sure, but that's not the reality of business. And if you expect things to be that way, then you shouldn't be an entrepreneur. Look, I don't turn down work for difficult people as long as they're willing to work with me on this very set specific thing that I don't budge on. And I don't expect them just to accept my non-negotiables because I said so. That's not good sales. Good sales is persuasion. Good sales is helping them understand why these are things are in place for them, because if my business, the reason they want to be my client is because I have a good functioning business and I'm able to deliver things. The reason I have a good functioning business is because I'm cash flow positive. I'm not chasing people down for money. I'm not out a bunch of money on the street. Things have already been delivered. It's not fair to my clients that do pay on time, because they pay it on time and I have to use their money to pay for your project. That's not fair to them. So helping your clients understand why these non-negotiables are in place will make for a much better selling process, a much more successful selling project process, and a much more successful project that leads to further work, more referrals, new clients, a much healthier brand recognition. All these things, what makes a great entrepreneur. So again, find your non-negotiable, tell the story of why it's important to your client. Make sure you stick to your guns. Don't budge because you'll regret it at the end. But don't let your client walk without trying to at least help them understand why it's there in the first place. Again, so this is Ryan with Selling University. Thank you for taking time to watch this video. I look forward to putting together another one for you in the future. Let's talk soon. Thanks.